fantastic aid. Well, that's not quite the right word for it, but that's why we have our special guest here today who can explain it much better. A measuring device that confirms what we've been saying for months, almost a year now. Laminine is something special. Laminine is something different, and it can't be compared to any other dietary supplement currently on the market. What this device can do, why it has reached this conclusion, and what it means for you. I'm handing over the microphone right now, and I'll take care of Fabian so we can get him into the webinar room as well. Now, I'm just looking for you there. All right, now you have the spotlight, and I kindly ask you to briefly introduce yourself and tell our guests who you are and what you do.
Yes, a very good evening. My name is Revki Bremi, and I am in charge of general sales at the company. Can you all hear me well? A quick confirmation would be nice. Perfect. Very good. Thank you very much. Yes, today I have the honor of being here to tell you a bit more about our device, about our system. I got to know Laminine, or rather the company Live Farm, just a few weeks ago when I was asked if I could do a trial measurement. This trial measurement went completely differently than what I was used to. It is important to recognize that it's not a particularly straightforward task to accurately measure the specific ability of nutritional supplements to fundamentally change the human body. Certainly there are some minor results that can be measured through clinical observation, but it's not really significant enough for us to confidently say that this is a form of therapy that we can truly highlight or validate with our current sophisticated medical and technical diagnostic equipment. With the product Laminine, however, it was something completely different. We did a before and after measurement, and in the meantime I also performed several intermediate measurements. At some point I realized that after about an hour the product had an absolutely incredible effect. We measured this with our NILAS device. Our NILAS device is an ECG-controlled HRV device, heart rate variability. It measures from one heartbeat to the next, meaning from one heart contraction to the next, and all the measurement parameters in between are analyzed. I can show you very briefly. I hope this should work now. Now I've reached the end. All right, that was the wrong button. Sorry, our NILAS device measures what is happening right now. That means it measures exactly what is happening in the body right now. Any change, it's a short-term measuring device. That means it shows the current function of the body, not how it behaves over weeks, but right now at the moment the measurement is taken. And that of course is crucial when you do a before and after measurement with a product in order to prove or demonstrate the effectiveness of that product. And this is absolutely unbeatable. Especially in the field of nutritional supplements, because when the customer sees their own personal values, it's something completely different than just showing them some certificates, some presentations, or some testimonials. On the contrary, it has a much greater, more personal value and is immediately accepted by the customer. And that's the beauty of it. And the measurement takes 5 minutes, during which about 300 heartbeats are recorded. On average 5 minutes, tell me, depending on how strongly the heart is beating. There are people with a fast heartbeat and there are people with a rather slow heartbeat, so it can take anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes. Within this time, all the data is scanned 5 times. That means the device goes through the entire process 5 times in order to filter out any movements or arrhythmias that may occur in between, ensuring that the measurement is truly reliable and valuable. This has led to the NILAS MV measuring device, the HRV device, now being the best-selling measuring device and also the only one with medical device approval. In other words, you will certainly find it being used by alternative practitioners, doctors, and also in clinics. As already mentioned, alternative practitioners and doctors. By now we have various clinics, doctors, and also alternative practitioners who work with the device, although they use it for other purposes, to present their own therapy methods and their own findings to people. Because with our measuring device, it is of course very simple to explain things to the customer or patient, since it is based on musical notes and a color principle, so that the customer can see and understand it for themselves. What is much more important is that the customer can understand that a change has taken place and can track it. Among doctors in Germany, this device can be used in various ways. Among alternative practitioners in Germany, and these are really just the numbers from Germany. Across Europe, of course, it's much, much more. Maybe you're now briefly thinking a bit differently about what I'm telling you here. These are all potential customers for you as well. That means if you look at it properly, these are all long-term customers in the end. When we look at the community of professional nutrition and dietary consultants in Germany, who actively utilize their specific health products and detailed scientific analyses, and are currently and very urgently searching for high-quality, reliable products to offer to their clients. Or among complementary and community medicine practitioners in Germany, you've heard it all before. Biofeedback, autogenic training, and so on and so forth. You can use it in all of these areas. That's the advantage. With our product, especially in combination with Laminine, you have an incredible marketing machine to expand your business. It's incredible. Studios. Just think about how many studios there are in Germany that are increasingly moving into the medical sector themselves because they've realized that if they offer good products and good high-quality equipment and so on, they naturally attract better clientele who are also willing to pay more. These include things like regulatory sports, anti-stress therapy, stress reduction, all things you can manage with Laminine. I'll show you that in a moment. I have a sample measurement that I took back when I first got to know Laminar, and I always carry it with me because the results were incredible. And of course also with over 800 companies in Germany and with salespeople who are truly looking for ways to demonstrate the effectiveness of their products. Earlier I was on the phone with Fabian and pointed out to him how many products are sold in Germany that actually don't really work. Why? Because the marketing is good, because the marketing plan is good. They'll probably last a few years and then you won't hear anything about them anymore. You know plenty of those, I'm quite sure of it. But all of these are salespeople who are there, who don't know anything about you yet, who don't know anything about Laminine yet, who have no idea that something like this can even be demonstrated, that you can show with a before and after measurement how this product actually works in a very short time, within an hour, and produces incredible changes in the body. All of these are your customers of tomorrow, your family, the salespeople of tomorrow. There are over 240 companies in Germany that, with their employees, of course, distribute medical products. And among them, there are certainly many good partners as well. Why? Because they have the right clientele at hand. You should really look into that. Or pharmacies, especially in the pharmacy sector, it's just absolutely crazy. These are figures I have from the Federal Statistical Office, where I have been a member for over 10 years. And when you consider that 92% of the population see pharmacies as indispensable. Why? Because they're used to taking all sorts of things without really knowing what they're doing. And 62% of all people who are ill go to the pharmacy first before they even see a doctor. There is a customer potential in Germany that is just incredibly huge. I even believe that we have one of the largest potentials in all of Europe, because nowhere else are so many pharmaceuticals consumed as in Germany. These are all people you can educate, people you can take out of this pharmaceutical track with a good product and say, look, with a good dietary supplement you can handle this in a completely different way. You don't need these pills, you don't need to put this chemistry into your body. These are all important pieces of information. And the nice thing is that doctors, for such a measurement, as I said, ladies and gentlemen, it only takes 5 minutes, can charge almost 60 euros per measurement in just 5 minutes. For alternative practitioners, it's about 25 euros. And in other industries, the price fluctuates a bit between 10 and 60 euros. Why? I am very happy to share this number with you. These figures are listed in the GEO. That means there is a GOA, a billing code called 652. There, the 2.3-fold rate is specified, meaning these 60 euros per measurement, which doctors and alternative practitioners who are able to do so can charge from the insurance companies. This only applies to private health insurance. Statutory health insurance does not cover it yet, but that will certainly change. Every follow-up measurement is also paid at this rate. That means a before and after measurement at the doctor quickly adds up to 120 euros. Of course, that's quite a significant amount for just 10 minutes of work, so to speak. But, well, we naturally also provide a bit of consultation along with it. That's part of the service. That's completely normal. The customer naturally wants to know what these values actually mean. And now I'll show you a before and after measurement that I did with the product Laminine. This took place on the 22nd July of this year at 2:15 p.m. That's when we did the initial measurement. Then we dissolved 3 capsules of Laminine in water. They were drunk, and afterwards I did a follow-up measurement. As I said, I did several measurements in between, which I'll show you, but the last measurement was at 3:17 p.m. As you can see, 1 hour later, and now you can see the stress assessment index. This index is presented on a scale from 10 to 100. This index is derived from test subject measurements, meaning we actually have a large archive of test subject data, which allowed this index to be calculated. Previously, the stress assessment index for the test subjects was 133, so slightly elevated. That is really only slightly elevated, because this value can go up to 3,000. After taking Laminine after 1 hour, we had the value in the green range. You can see this on the right side. Now it is shown in green with a value of 93. Below you can see this division in the circles. Green represents the parasympathetic portion, the relaxation nerve. Yellow is the sympathetic portion, the tension nerve. And red is the neurohormonal activation level. I just want to briefly touch on this. This is the endocrine system, meaning starting from the pineal gland through the thyroid all the way to the sexual organs. And if this system is predominantly active, then of course it can take over bodily functions, and that's when things start to move into the realm of diseases. In the next parameter, we show the autonomic balance, that is, the index of autonomic balance, and how it behaves between the central nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. Previously, for the index of autonomic balance, we had a value of 203, and that is of course already quite a bit above what is considered average. After 1 hour, we were at 149, which means we were just about to fall into the green zone. That was really quite surprising. But much more important was that the autocorrelation, meaning vitality, was previously at 65. You can see it in the bottom left of the image at 65. That was already good. Anything above 50 is good. It ranges from 50 to 500. You rarely see 500 or even 300 or 400. Those are more for elite athletes. But 65 was already quite good. And this vitality increased from 65 to 89 within an hour. And that is, of course, a tremendous jump with just a food product. With a food product, normally you would expect something like this to happen in the body with an oxygen therapy or an injection. But with a dietary supplement, something like this is actually not common. And now it gets really exciting. In the central regulation, you can now see all these many little dots. All these little dots are meant to represent about 360 organ functions. Each organ has several functions. And the index of the central regulation of these organ functions should be between 50 and 100%. For the test subjects, it was at 31, which is already quite compromised. After Laminine, after 1 hour, this value was at 74, so it more than doubled, absolutely in the medium range. Wonderful. I was overwhelmed. Also, for the energy reserves below, you can see the index between 150 and 600. It was a bit weak, but quite balanced. In other words, the blue area indicates the body's energy production, and the red area shows the body's energy utilization, and there should be a harmonized balance. After the project product, it wasn't at 117, but at 219, so right in the middle. And you can see it just by looking at the red and blue boxes, a tremendous energy production. That personally overwhelmed me quite a bit, I have to be completely honest. And that's why I was all the more curious about the following values. And now we come to the psycho-emotional state. And regarding the psycho-emotional state, you can't see the animation here, but in our system, there are moving images. That means it is measured 5 times. And after each measurement, a scan is taken, and this scan is then shown in a time lapse. So in the brain area, we end up with moving images, you could say. Here too, the psycho-emotional state increased from 48% to 68%. So it's very clear that it also has an effect on the brain, which is completely normal. And now at the bottom, we see all the brain waves, the brain values, and there we have corresponding measurements. The delta values regulate the glands and hormones, in other words, active tension. Then we have the theta values, which are said to enable access to unconscious thinking. The alpha waves increase memory and learning ability, and those have risen enormously. The beta waves trigger relaxation and unconscious actions, but if the beta waves are above 25 Hertz and over 25%, then that's an indicator of burnout. Even this one has increased, but not excessively, rather just as it should. So I was very, very surprised and quite amazed, and I really enjoyed evaluating these values even further. The further evaluation is coming up now, and this is really exciting. You have something to look forward to, the biorhythms. The ratio between coherence and entropy, in other words, between order and disorder in the organism, is shown above in percentages. 50 to 100% is where you should be. The subject was at 33%, and then the value truly doubled to 62%, and you can clearly see that as well, these biorhythms. The subject's age was 53 years, the biological age was 52, so that was already in good balance, but after using the product, the biological age was 42, and I'm quite sure that Daniel will tell us a bit later about what his biological age looks like, or Fabian as well, so you can look forward to that. So taking a good product, eating well, and doing a bit of exercise really does help you stay healthy, fit, and young. All these parameters are eventually displayed in a pie chart. This pie chart here, along with the adaptation diagram, vegetative regulation, central regulation, and psycho-emotional state, shows the before effect on the left side and the after effect on the right side. And as you can see, the pie slices have really grown significantly, and you can especially notice it at the bottom with the health index, the overall health index. The blue semicircle there indicates what it should be according to the subject's age. And there he had an overall health index of 41%, which means 2% above what would be considered excellent for his age. And after taking the product, after the product took effect, it was at 69%, meaning he had an overall health increase of 30%, which is 28% within just 1 hour. That was more than just astonishing. Furthermore, as I previously mentioned during our discussion, we have carefully conducted a wide variety of detailed measurements. You can clearly observe these results represented by the numerous small circles and the intersecting lines that are displayed prominently within the upper section of the image provided here. I did the initial measurement, then came the first measurement, which I took after about 20 minutes. That means I had already proven that most values start to rise after 20 minutes, then they stabilize for about minutes, and after an hour they all absolutely shot up. So there is no greater proof than this, that the product worked more than just well for these test subjects. Then of course we also have other parameters. Everything that surrounds the body, and also this energy in the form of the aura portrait, can of course be measured by us. With this function in the program as well, there are moving images, meaning the aura moves. And sometimes it shows projections toward the body if there is a malfunction, if there is scar tissue, or a pulsating effect if there has been tension or if pain is present. That's already quite an impressive parameter that we have there. But here too the aura value increased from 41% to 69%. We also have an image of the chakras for those who work with chakras. These are also displayed as percentages and marked with stars. Of course, that's also a wonderful thing, and it's great to be able to demonstrate that as well. Just as, of course, with our meridians. The meridians surround our body. They are the highways of the body. And if we now look at the meridians on the left side, we can see that the heart meridian was at 10%. The small intestine was a bit affected, scars were a bit affected, lung, bladder, triple heater, and the liver, the ones shown in yellow, are still okay, but it's a sign that something isn't quite working properly. And after taking the product, the heart went up from 10 to 50%, and all the other values were green, which was quite convincing for me. So I was really looking forward to the final evaluation, which I'll show you in a moment. And now we're looking at the doshas and the 5 elements first. These are 40 intimate questions that you have to answer, and then you get a kind of profile where your type is determined. In this case, it was the Pitta type. At the very top, there's a nutrition symbol where a dietary recommendation is given for this type based on the measurement. Many people are quite surprised when they read what they should eat, what they perhaps shouldn't eat, or where they should be a bit more cautious. But the field of nutrition confirms this, and in the end, it does the body good. For us, or for me, the last table was the parameter overview. This parameter overview is not a new invention. It has existed for many, many years. The product comes from Russia. This means that all the parameters you see here now, these frequency spectra, these frequency parameters, this product or this measurement method has already existed 20 or 30 years ago, not on the MIA, but in the Russian military and the space industry. We have simply taken these standards, these values, and represented them as images so that you can show the before and after or track therapy progress in a way that the subject or patient can also understand. After all, many people don't always understand what doctors or alternative practitioners are saying. And in this case, it's now such that the person concerned can really understand quite quickly whether something has improved or gotten worse, rather than being confronted with some frequency spectra and parameters. But if you now look at the left side, not the large circle, but the second one from the top, so the one in the middle, you can see HF, LFV, that's again the initial image, the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, and the neurohormonal activation level. And there you can see the neurohormonal activation level was in the green range, while the others were red. After using the product, the sympathetic component and the neurohormonal activation level were in the green range. The parasympathetic component did decrease, but that's just how it is. After all, it's not some kind of magic potion. Something is actually happening in the body. Much more important is the TP value, which you can see in the last circle. The TP value is the total power value, meaning the body's total energy, and the total energy of the body for these subjects before was at 1,357. The normal range is between 2,300 and 4,500. After using the product, his value was at 2021. So I am quite certain that if this subject continues to take this product for a longer period, he will also get his TP value into the green range. And that was so decisive for me. I have been working in sales for many, many years, and I really know a huge number of dietary supplements. I myself worked for one of the largest companies for many years, and of course, ever since I started working with this device, I know how many products actually work and how many do not. I was so surprised here that I started taking the product myself, and I can tell you very clearly, my values have more than doubled within the last month since I started taking the product. I feel good and can only recommend it to everyone accordingly. Can the follow-up measurement turn out negative, meaning worse values? Yes, it can. But that has to do with the test subjects, especially when so many pharmaceuticals are being taken. Why do people look for dietary supplements? Because they probably have a little problem, but very few actually say what they're taking. Here a beta blocker, there a blood thinner, and so on and so forth. And when people take a lot of different preparations, they certainly have a proper reference value. You can see that in the very first measurement. The values are actually quite enormous, but they don't really fit the person or their medical history. That is a very, very, very strong indication that pharmaceuticals are really being taken in significant amounts. When you then start with dietary supplements, it doesn't work immediately. It just takes a little longer. It's the same here. After all, it's about how the product is utilized. If people have previously stuffed themselves and now take the Laminine, it will also take longer before you can measure any effects, because ultimately the stomach is full, the gastrointestinal tract is full, and it takes more time for the product to take effect. So don't get worked up if you sometimes have worse values. There is always a reason for that. There is definitely a reason, and we can also prove it. But in most cases, I would say in 80 to 90% of cases, you will always have better values afterwards than before. I can only advise you, if you work with this product, with the NILAS, you will have a lot of fun. You will spread a lot of joy, especially in the area of biological age. Suddenly, that's where I am. But please make the people to whom you are now showing the product aware. They should not have eaten particularly much beforehand and should have drunk as much water as possible, so that when the product is dissolved and taken, it can really go straight through the stomach into the intestine and show its effect. Then you will also be able to present really good values in the follow-up measurement. If you are interested in this product, ask your sponsors. They will help you further. Thank you for having me as your guest today, and of course I look forward to advancing Laminine together with you.
Thank you very much.